Hello everyone, my name is Eric Terramellons, and today we're going to be checking out the produced by Goodsmile company, but manufactured by Max Factories, Xenoblade 2 Pyra. I know, she's freaking amazing. Weird place to start with a review. She has her ups, she has her downs, so let's check them out. I don't even know where to start with a figure like this. When I was younger, I grew up on Xenogears, and I loved that game. And then when I got older, I played all the Xenosaga games, and they were super fun. And then when Xenoblade came out, I just wasn't around to play it. I was super busy at that point in my life, and trying to, survive, and because of that, I just didn't have time to play any kind of games. So it wasn't until many years later when I actually worked for a video game company for a little while where there's a used copy of Xenoblade 2, and I was just like... And here we are. I can actually remember having pre-ordered the statue to Hyperdimension Neptunia, this one here. And at the same time, she was up for pre-order, and I almost ordered her over Neptunia just because I thought it looked so pretty, despite not knowing the source material at the time. I wouldn't put it past me to do that, I do stuff like that pretty often. So let's get started by talking about the base. Oh boy, I don't know what to say about a base like this. It's wonky, it has the title on it. At least it's not just a round circular black base, because I'm kind of tired of that. I guess it's kind of like tiles that you would see in like a robot ship or maybe something like that. I don't know. I think it's weird. It does kind of connect in with Mythra's, but we'll get into that later. It's like a light red, pink, light red. She has this giant chunky piece of plastic here, so it makes it look like she's kind of in the air, in motion, not touching the ground. She's literally jumping off. And it's got a huge metallic peg in there, which is fantastic to help against leaning, which this figure would 100% do. Look at how ambitious this is. It's the price you pay when you go for such ambition. You gotta put in all those pieces to solidify it. Afterwards, she has this metal pole along the back of her left foot. It's atrocious. This is actually the rerun figure. They've actually done her a couple of times, and Mythra as well. So why didn't they give her the same kind of stand that Mythra has, like the plastic one that could just plug under the knee? Like, otherwise, why didn't they add the metal one to Mythra? Composition-wise, this would have looked nice considering you knew you were putting the two together. Moving aside from that, let's talk about her shoes. They look awesome. They look so cool. They look like future robot girl shoes. I freaking love how there's a sole on there and the sole looks beautiful. It has different colors, a sweet little design to it. Just really nice. It's a beautiful pearlized magenta. I'm gonna say magenta. A big secret here, but I'm mildly colorblind. So sometimes I try to get my wife to help me out with certain colors. She's not here right now to help me out, so I'm going for it. She has a mild magenta, red, pearlized shoe, and there's a couple of accents of it that continue throughout the rest of her suit. But it looks beautiful. I love the black band with the little kind of aqua green blue line that she has going through there, like in the game where it all lights up. The front of the shoe has this epic jewel in there. It looks so fantastic. That's got this beautiful gold border. All the golds on it are pretty matte, but it seems like they may have put some gloss on it because it does seem pretty shiny. Moving up from there, we get into her stockings, which are very awesome. There's so many indentations. It's not just one thing with like illustrations drawn on it. Like there are lines actually beveled in all over the place. Pieces of plastic here and there molded onto this thing. It's beautiful, and it actually goes down into the shoe or along the front, which is pretty cool, like design-wise, and it makes it feel like the stockings and the shoe are all one big piece, which is awesome for somebody who's really kind of a robot girl, and I don't even know if you could take this off. I feel like the stocking is her leg. You know, like if you took that off, she would be missing her leg. But I'm not 100% sure on this. It's just the impression that I get from looking at this, and I guess from loving so many robot girl things in general. Although I know there's like a beach costume for her, and at that point she doesn't have any of this stuff on, but I mean, is she changing her form based off of the energy she creates to modify her body in order to do that in the first place? I'm going off topic, we're not going to get into that today, but the beach costume is really cute. So the front of these stockings have these epic little lines on them that look really cool as they go up into some more pearlized effects. Again, the stockings, my goodness, they're gloss, very shiny, very nice. There's some shading, there's some highlights. Then we get into this awesome texture that kind of looks like a snakeskin texture, or maybe, I guess, a texture like a honeycomb. and you have this beautiful greenish blue line going across the top. Once you get into the skin, it actually goes inwards where the skin bounces out, which gives it that effect that the stocking is plugged in, or maybe it's just really tight on her. And the skin is matte, very soft, very smooth, with some highlights and shading as well, gradients and different types of beiges to be able to create that shading effect. Really cool. And then we get into her short shorts. I love them. These short shorts are hardcore short shorts. I don't believe how short they are. It's just like a thin piece of metallic plastic. Again, pearlized, beautiful, matches up with her shoes and other parts of her clothing. They're really short going upwards and they're really short going downwards. Part of me kind of would have liked if they went up just a little higher. I don't mind short shorts going high, but when they're shorter on the top, it's just a little less for me, but that's a personal preference. Pyra's got those va-va-voom curves, and it shows in this statue because it's pretty accurate to the game. I remember when I played the game for the first time and she showed up, I couldn't believe it. For real, like, you saw a couple of character designs here and there, like Mia was there and everything right at the beginning of the game. You're like, yeah, okay, here we go, Xenoblade. It's gonna make me think of those Xenogears games back in the day. And the second Pyra shows up, I'm just like, this game is not for children. Not for children. The back of her short shorts are gorgeous. It has actually decoupages to them. There's style built into her short shorts. So it's not just one chunk of plastic, you have multiple of them, along with these belts and clips all over her. It looks awesome. However, aside from looking like there's a zipper attachment to the front of them, the front and the back are very similar in their design, especially with the added pieces and these clips. I'd just like to mention that the little belt pieces even have tiny little lines and details and sculpts to them that make them look like they're being pulled in a certain direction. So they paid attention to every single little detail of this figure. Then we move up into her back, which is very pretty. She's got a hardcore curve going and a very thin waist. The back is incredibly well done as it goes up into the top of her uniform. Moving over to the front, we have her stomach, which directly goes into uniform. Kind of feels like a bathing suit all around, this sort of thing. And the front of her stomach clothing actually has that same texture of honeycomb going across it. It looks really nice as there's shading and highlights on that too. We've got gold trim. We have the glowing green aqua trim moving up into her rib cage, where we get to see some beautiful gold pieces that look like they just kind of like harnesses plugging all of her parts together. And it all moves up into her chest, where we still have that beautiful texture, gorgeous highlights, and then we have the top part of her clothing, which is red. So this chest area here actually has that X motif. We get a beautiful illustration of the Zohar here, and it looks incomplete, just like in the game, which is pretty awesome. The Zohar is that thing that you see in Xenosaga, and I believe maybe Xenogears? I don't remember, it's been a long time. But it's very reoccurrent all throughout the Xeno universe. Some of you who don't even know Xenoblade might recognize this beautiful chest design from the Nintendo Switch remote that they came out with a little while ago that was completely homaging this character. It's awesome, it's a sweet remote. The only thing I regret is this should have glowed in the dark or it should have lit up. But we're not here talking about this today. It's a nice matchup and it looks really good in front of her. We have an awesome neck piece. It has all these chunks coming out and going in with more texture going down into the shoulders. The clips along the top and right next to her collarbone, which is actually somewhat pronounced underneath this costume. It looks pretty. Her shoulders are a mix of different angles and pieces and equipment, and I live for all of this. It is so cool. I love the gold. I love that it has the little embeveled green that's in there. The little pieces that flap outwards look so nice. And slowly but surely, this brings us to the top of her back, where she again has a lot of that sweet honeycomb texture and what seems like somewhat of a little backpack. It looks cute, I like it, and I really love the pieces that come out and have these beautiful sashes. They look so nice. However, they're flowing in different directions. There are different designs on the top versus the inside, where the inside kind of feels a bit like her chest, and like that remote I showed you earlier. The top really has different sectioned off pieces with gold trim, and again, all the different colors are really sectioned off using beveling and actual indentations. It's not just painted on. The way it plugs in kind of makes me think that you could have plugged in some sort of insect wings. Now we're going to go down to her hands, which are also epic. They have that sweet honeycomb texture. It has kind of a repeat of what we see on her shoes, but on her wrists with the same awesome little motif and designs, and that beautiful gem. Her gloves have cutout fingers, which give you a bit more of a hardcore vibe from the character. And she's holding this sword. So for some of you that have never played Xenoblade before, I'm about to say a mild spoiler, so get ready for it. The sword is actually her. The weapons in Xenoblade tend to represent the characters. So what you're seeing here is a part of her in general. She can't not have it. And it looks gorgeous. My goodness. This handle with this awesome blade guard. There's all these little lines and details and robotic motifs across it. I love how there's the little sectioned off pieces and it's in gold. All the colors that you see on her, even though a lot of them repeat, they're so well placed on her design and her figure that it doesn't feel like there's too much of one color. The separation in color breaks is fantastically done here. We get this gorgeous little transparency Zohar on her sword. Both sides of the sword are exactly the same and just as detailed. They didn't cheap out on one side. And I love all the texture and all the design that goes into it. Just imagine this sword closed is thick, but not nearly as large as it looks. But then it opens up and you have all this transparency coming out to represent the energy of the character. You look at this figure and you think, that's pretty spicy. But then you look at this sword and you're like, she's such a badass. This is so cool. And for those of you that played the game, you know what's up. For a character that's so soft and round, the sword has so many spikes and edges all across it. It's really contradictory to her herself, but it works so well with her. And now we move up to the face, which is incredibly accurate to the video game. I love how round it is. I love the facial expression. It's just a light smile. She's a very nurturing, very motherly type character in the game, and it really comes off in just the small little details and features you see on this face. The eyes are so beautiful, vibrant. They've got such nice color to them. And the tiny little nose, the shape, depending on what angle you look at this face, it really has that anime aesthetic. It's just so pretty, and it's so pointy and sharp, but soft at the same time. It's just such a perfect melange of everything. Going into her hair, she has this gorgeous tiara that has a nice little transparent green triangle. It's the same transparent plastic that you see on the Zohar and along the gems on her feet and on her hands. Her hair is also mildly pearlized, which is interesting. It gives her a more synthetic look, I suppose. There's a lot of cuts and decoupages going on in her hair, where I would say there's this one in particular on the top I'm not particularly a fan of. It looks too sectioned off and plugged in, but it's not that noticeable depending on how you're going to place her and pose her in your home. The back part of the hair is just gorgeous. It looks so thick. For a haircut like this, it's so well done. Usually you don't get half the texture you're gonna get in this, or half the strands of hair. It's not just flat. There's so many little spikes and so many molds and sculpts underneath all of this. It's really wild. She has this super cute little earrings that you can see on the side there too. It's a shame that they didn't make these transparent, but it's using that same aqua glowy green that they have throughout the rest of her, so it still fits very well. Like I mentioned earlier, she's had multiple releases. However, on said release, her price point was roughly 18,000 yen, so she's by no means cheap. For what you're getting, I'd say it's absolutely worth it. Would I pay a bit of a premium on her? Of course I would. I love the Xeno franchise. I can't believe I missed out on Nia. That's gonna haunt me. They'll probably rerun her. They rerun all the Xeno stuff. If you get her, do you feel like you absolutely need to get Mithra with her as well? I don't think so. I think she stands alone very well. She's beautiful. She does take up quite a bit of space because of all of this, and there's tons of like little sharp edges everywhere, so she can easily snag on things, so you do have to be careful of that. One thing that's kind of cool about having a transparent base is you can always put on something that lights up from underneath. That's a beautiful added bonus. If you're a big fan of this character, I'd say she's worth it 100%. If you don't know the franchise whatsoever, like I said, I myself almost pulled on getting her years ago, and getting her years later, I'm really not disappointed. This is an amazing figure. Of course, they do look fantastic together. Mithra is gorgeous, and I don't think I personally could have gotten one without the other, but just because I love the franchise and I love the characters so much. One thing I will mention is I'd like to have a Numa, and if they could just find a way to slide her in the center here and kind of create an X with their bases, that would be a lot more appreciated. If you like this video just a little, it doesn't cost much to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. This way you'll be notified of future episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and have an awesome rest of your day. See ya! But for real, how can I talk about Pyra and not talk about Mythra? Mythra, oh no. Hold up there, Eric. What? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It'll be a longer video. We'll just talk about Mythra too. She's so cool. I gotta talk about both of them. What, and make the video like 30 or 40 minutes? I don't think so. What do you mean? This isn't like a TV show. You can't do something like this to me. This episode is over. We're gonna save Mythra for another day. Mythra! To be continued. Bum bum bum!